This week I already talked about some, let's say, backlash because of the not for EU labeling now in Great Britain. But it is a complex thing, and there are many more people who are resisting this, and that's why I want to talk a little bit more in detail about this labeling and the proposals of the government. The not for EU labeling proposal, arising from the UK's post-Brexit landscape, has stirred up a complex mix of concerns and potential benefits. To delve deeper, let's explore its history, the current status, and the surrounding controversy. Following Brexit in 2020, the UK established its own set of product regulations, distinct from those of the EU in part. However, Northern Ireland remained subject to certain EU regulations due to the Northern Ireland Protocol, aimed at avoiding a hard border with the Republic of Ireland, which is an EU member state. And this created a unique challenge for businesses selling across the UK. Complying with two sets of regulations meant different labeling requirements for Northern Ireland compared to Great Britain, which means England, Scotland, and Wales. And to simplify labeling and potentially reduce costs, the UK government proposed not for EU labeling in 2023. The idea was to have one label for Great Britain, indicating the product wasn't compliant with all EU regulations, and a separate label for Northern Ireland, adhering to both sets of rules. The proposal sparked mixed reactions, with several concerns emerging. There was, for example, the topic that not for EU could mislead consumers, particularly those unaware of the Northern Ireland situation, potentially believing the product is unsafe or illegal for any purchase. And businesses worried that the labeling could negatively impact exports to the EU and beyond, creating an unsafe perception. And implementing the new labeling would add complexity and cost for businesses, especially for smaller companies. Critics also argued it would create a two-tier system within the UK, potentially hindering fluidity and unity within the internal market. The government held a consultation in 2023 to gather feedback, receiving over 14,000 responses, with a significant portion against mandatory not for EU labeling. But as of today, when I'm filming this, they are still going forward. And the government is analyzing the feedback and considering alternative solutions to address the labeling challenges, but they haven't officially stopped the whole thing. Some businesses have already started using not for EU labeling voluntarily, raising concerns about potential consumer confusion and inconsistency. And the situation remains fluid, with the future of not for EU labeling dependent on ongoing discussions and potential policy changes. You know how this happens there. The not for EU debate highlights the complexities of Brexit and its impact on regulations, trade, and the internal market, and is crucial to consider not only the labeling itself, but also its broader implications for consumer protection, business competitiveness, and the overall UK economic landscape. The Food and Drink Federation has already raised concerns that this will significantly hamper British businesses exporting. Balwinder Doot, the FTF's Director of Industrial Growth and Sustainability, said, "The planned introduction of not for EU labeling will create a new barrier to trading with our largest export markets in Europe and poses a significant risk to exports. We urge the government to work with industry to come up with a solution that does not impede our export capabilities." The FTF is instead arguing for this only to apply for Northern Ireland to reduce red tape. The Financial Times reported that Chief Executive Karen Betts wrote to the government saying, "The not for EU labels will lead to higher prices amid a cost of living crisis and to lower investment at a time when investment in our sector is already down." And while a poll by Survation for the Best of Britain campaign group found almost 1 in 5 people have said they are less likely to buy products labeled not for EU. And while only 28% understand where this meat and dairy comes from, suggesting confusion among consumers. And Naomi Smith, chief executive of Best for Britain, said about this: almost every agricultural challenge has been made more difficult by Brexit, and this government has continued to hammer farmers and food suppliers with terrible new trade deals which undercut British standards. The next government must commit to a youth mobility visa scheme to tackle labour shortages, an independent board of trade to protect farmers from fire sale trade deals, and beneficial regulatory alignment with our largest market to slash red tape. And the government spokesperson said, these measures will help ensure that consumers in Northern Ireland have access to the same goods as those in the rest of the United Kingdom, safeguarding the UK internal market and the operation of the Windsor framework. Well, there are indeed several reasons why there is so much resistance to the Not for EU labelling, ranging from practical concerns to broader philosophical issues. The biggest concern is the potential for misleading consumers. Not for EU might imply the product is unsafe or illegal even for purchase within the UK, and this could deter consumers, harm brands, and create unnecessary anxiety. And businesses fear the labeling could damage export competitiveness. And even if the product complies with UK regulations, the Not for EU tag might raise questions in other markets, impacting sales and brand image. Implementing the new labeling system would add also complexity and cost for businesses, especially for smaller companies. And this includes adapting packaging, printing new labels, and managing inventory for different versions as well. Critics argue it would create a two-tier system within the UK, as I said earlier, with Northern Ireland having different labeling requirements. And this would hinder the fluidity of the internal market and create an uneven playing field for different businesses. There are indeed alternative solutions like digital labeling or dual labels, but these also raise concerns about cost, feasibility, and potential for further confusion here. Some see the proposal as a step away from harmonization with EU standards, raising concerns about long-term implications for consumer protection and regulatory alignment. Concerns exist about the transparency and communication around the proposal. Some feel the government hasn't adequately addressed public and business concerns or provided clear alternatives. It is indeed important to note that not everyone opposes the Not for EU labeling. Some argue it simplifies labeling for businesses and clarifies regulations for consumers. However, the potential drawbacks and lack of clarity have led to significant resistance and the current discussions. The future of Not for EU labeling remains uncertain because of this. Whether the government finds a solution that addresses these concerns or pursues alternative approaches will depend on further discussions, analysis, and potential policy changes. The reaction of foreign markets to the proposed Not for EU labeling is largely negative, with concerns ranging from potential trade barriers to, once again, consumer confusion. And many foreign markets, particularly those with close ties to the EU, worry that the label could be interpreted as a non-EU designation, raising concerns about product safety or compliance with international standards. And this could lead to increased scrutiny, import restrictions, or even outright bans on products with the label. Even beyond the EU, the label could be confusing for consumers unfamiliar with the UK's post-Brexit situation. It might raise questions about the product's safety, legality, or quality, potentially damaging the brand's image and leading to reduced sales. Overall, the negative perception of the Not for EU label will negatively impact UK exports to various foreign markets, and this will harm businesses, damage the UK's reputation as a reliable trading partner, and hinder its post-Brexit economic goals. Many foreign markets favor transparency and clarity in labeling, and they suggest solutions like Dual labeling, for example, having separate labels for the UK and EU markets, clearly indicating compliance with each sets of regulations. Or the digital labeling, that with using QR codes or other digital means to provide detailed information about product compliance accessible to consumers worldwide. Or simplified labeling, that's exploring ways to streamline labeling while ensuring clarity and compliance with international standards. But the not for EU label will definitely raise eyebrows. Let's say you are in the USA, you are in Brazil, you are in Japan, and see a product with a label not for EU. I have viewers from all around the world. What will the people say if they see that on the shelves in the supermarket? And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.